In a move that was only about 800,000 years overdue, Indycar is finally getting its own video game. We've also got some other stuff to talk about today in a pretty well-loaded edition of Half Elite Racing News This Week in Racing. So actually, before we get started with this video, I want to go ahead and plug something new I'm going to try. I'm going to do a gaming channel, so I'm going to be playing iRacing and just in general racing video games, which obviously IndyCar we'll talk about later, but I'm going to have a link to that in the description, in case any of you guys are wanting to check that out. It's kind of a thing I've been wanting to, do for a while, is just be able to have a channel where I play games, but those type of videos generally don't get a ton of views on my channel, so I thought I'd move them over to a different channel and just see how that did. So if you do want to check that out, like I said, links in the description. So let's go ahead and get into some racing stuff. First up, some pretty big news in terms of IMSA World Endurance Championship Hypercar Convergence. Not only, obviously, this had been a thing for a while, was the IMSA hypercars, LMDH cars, were going to be able to run at Le Mans. Now, that's also going the other way. So LMH hypercars will be able to run IMSA races at Daytona, and I guess, I mean IMSA in general. So this is obviously great, in my opinion. This will help IMSA's grid sizes. And it's also going to be cool to see how Toyota and Peugeot and all those types of big name companies will be able to compete at Daytona, along with all the people or all the companies joining the LMDH stuff. So that'll be very interesting to watch in the next couple of years. And that's not going to take effect until 2023. So it'll still be a bit before, well, I guess it'll be a bit before we get LMDH cars, and then when we get that, we'll also have LMH cars at Daytona. So, like I said, that'll be interesting to watch, but 2023 is when that's going to come. So let's go ahead and get into our next thing, which is a little bit less of a good story, and kind of a controversial and not exactly set in stone story, because there's different sides to this and different news coming out from different people within NASCAR. Now, the next gen car was released a couple of months ago, and this week they were doing crash testing at Daytona, and apparently there was some type of failure on the testing equipment that apparently, according to stuff that we've heard from higher-ups in NASCAR, the sled that they were using to crash test the car wouldn't launch. Now, we didn't actually hear this until quite recently, because before that, there was actually rumors that instead of the crash equipment not working correctly, the car was not crashing correctly, basically. The car wasn't crumpling enough, and it was getting all the energy sent directly to the test dummy driver, and the dummy kept dying, which basically just simulates that if there was a real driver in there, they would have died, which obviously, first of all, that's good that if that's actually true, that they found that out early. But from what it sounds like from NASCAR, that's actually not the situation, and that there was just some type of error with the equipment, which, I mean, they sent this stuff to they sent the data from the stuff to doctors and stuff that were studying the the findings. So here's kind of a timeline-ish rundown of what happened. So before the race at Atlanta on Sunday, a memo was sent out to all the drivers and teams about the crash test. And according to what NASCAR has said, the memo basically said that the results of it were good, though the crash test also, some people had said that they had been told the crash test failed. Now, basically what that started was people hearing it failed and thinking, oh, well, they had bad results and the crash test dummy died or something. So that was kind of what got spread around the garage as what happened. But That wasn't exactly what actually happened because, like I said, there was some type of mechanical issue with the crash testing equipment. So we really don't exactly know what the actual crash test data was. It's really just more like the equipment didn't work, so it wasn't really a test as much as it was just a failed attempt at a test. So NASCAR had to come out and address that because there was a lot of people getting quite scared, and understandably, about the possibility of a new car not working and being unsafe to drive at super speedways. Now, NASCAR, like I said, has come out and said that they believe the car's fine and that it was, again, basically just an equipment failure. But there's still some concerns from what drivers have said about how the car looks and how that would compare to how energy would dissipate in a crash. The drivers have said the car looks quite rigid, which generally is it's a good thing in terms of the car staying together, but is also a bad thing in terms of the car staying together in a crash. If you don't know, in a crash, the car needs to kind of not break apart, but the metal, the sheet metal would need to crumple to dissipate the energy and make sure none of that energy goes to the driver. Basically, it's a safety thing. The cars could be made to where in a crash they don't really get destroyed or torn up that much, but it wouldn't be safe because it'd be bad for crashing and you'd end up with people getting hurt left and right, especially at super speedways. Yeah, that's basically how that works. Now, originally what people started talking about was what are they going to do if the car's unsafe? They're going to have to spend more time working on it, surely. There's basically three options. There's the normal, release the car on schedule in 2022 at the Daytona 500. There's the kind of middle option of releasing the car in 2022 at the short tracks and then coming out with the car in 2023, similar to a COT style rollout of the car. And then there was, of course, the full delay back to 2023. NASCAR hasn't made any decision about that yet, and I don't think that there will be any major decision other than just it's going out at Daytona like normal. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see if there's anything else that develops on that, but it's still quite a weird situation. Just we don't exactly know what happened. Hopefully they'll basically make another attempt at the crash test and we can get some more conclusive results without people worrying about people getting hurt or anything. Hopefully they can crash test it again and everything goes well. So on the topic of new car stuff in the Formula One world, Formula One released their new 2022 car today. Now, we already obviously seen the preliminary images of the car, just based on the rules, some less detailed stuff that F1 had released. This was really just the first full actually car that exists. The other stuff was just digital rendering. This is a car that Ross Brawn and the other technical people at the FIA actually built. So here's some pictures of the car. They had a nice little reflective thing. I don't exactly know what to call that, but it was definitely an interesting looking car. It looks similar to what the digital renderings looked like, so it wasn't any type of major changes to the rules or anything that we've seen since then. It's pretty much the same thing, just a physical version of the car. So the FIA and F1 is saying that this should help racing quite a lot, which obviously is good. Right now it's quite hard to follow with the buckets of dirty air getting dumped out of the car in front. It's kind of hard to follow in F1. So hopefully this new car will help racing. Obviously this is all stuff that we've been talking about for months now, since the first digital renderings of the car were released. This is really just a kind of updated version of the car. They spent more time trying to find loopholes in the rule book and either close them or kind of put them like on the car or whatever and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's the new F1 car. Let's go ahead and get into some more smaller news stories. Staying in the world of F1, Aston Martin will be looking to change the color of green on their car to make it pop a little bit more. Now, the British racing green that they've been using is quite dark of a green. It really looks almost more like a black if you look at the car from far away, but even on TV, when you're even looking at closer shots, the car doesn't stick out as much as, I mean, their last year's car, the Racing Point car with the pink, just in general, brighter cars, the Ferrari red, all types of stuff. Their car doesn't pop out as much as that. So the guys over at Aston Martin have been looking to possibly change that color of green to make it a lighter green, to maybe make the car pop more on TV and in person. Now, this obviously gets kind of the livery stuff fired back up again, because obviously the car had already been released, but many of the kind of fantasy liveries of this car were more of the Volt green type green, like a much lighter, similar to this color actually. I guess probably a little brighter, but similar color to that, more lighter green. So maybe they'll go for that lighter green, or maybe they'll just go for a lighter version of the British racing green. Who knows? That'll be something we'll see probably later this year. Also in the news, Top Gun Racing will be running at the Harvest Grand Prix in August. So this will actually be their first IndyCar start, assuming they actually turn up, and I guess if you turn up, you make the field. But that would be their first IndyCar start, so that'll be cool to watch for Top Gun Racing. Obviously, they didn't make the field for the Indy 500 this year, but they were kind of a fan favorite story to watch through practice. It'll be interesting to see how they do in their first race, really, for IndyCar, their actual debut start. We assume that I assume that it's going to be R.C. Enerson. Yeah, so just to confirm, it will be R.C. Enerson running the second Indy Grand Prix, the Harvest Grand Prix in August. So let's go ahead and move on to the main topic of this video, the IndyCar video game. So it was announced this week that IndyCar will be getting its own video game in partnership with Motorsports Games. Well, I guess they'll be the publishers releasing the game. Now, this will be the first IndyCar game since IndyCar Series 2005, which was released in 2004 and based on the 2003 IRL season. So it's been a while. Now, this is coming out in 2023, so it'll actually be 20 years since the last IndyCar series or IndyCar season that had a game based off of it. So obviously there's been places where you could play IndyCars, obviously iRacing. There's mods for Assetto Corsa. I think there's been a lot of the Forza games have had IndyCars. I know there's been other games that have had them, but IndyCars have they've been playable in a lot of games, but there hasn't been a game dedicated to IndyCar unlike NASCAR or F1 or sports leagues and stuff like that. Now, Motorsports Games, the people releasing this game, are actually the people that make or have made the NASCAR Heat games. Yeah, they also made R Factor 2. So going off that, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a F1 level in-depth game. It looks like it's going to be more of a casual game, kind of what you would expect from NASCAR Heat or something. Obviously, to an extent, it stinks that it's not going to be as in-depth as the F1 games. Those games are really in-depth and fun to play, especially when you've got the, My Team Career or whatever. It'll be interesting to see, as we get closer to 2023, how the game, how it works, really, how it's going to work. And the question is, obviously, what season is it going to be based off of? Is it going to be based off 2022? Hopefully 2023. I guess I'd assume they based it off the 2023 season, but I don't know. So, obviously, it's a Motorsports game. I've said that. But hopefully, this goes kind of the way of R Factor 2 and is a more in-depth game. Actually, I haven't played R Factor 2. I'm assuming that because it's kind of a sim instead of a more laid-back game. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that game ends up turning out. In general, I'm just happy to have an IndyCar video game because we've been needing it for years. Like, I mean, IndyCar in general does not have a big public presence, really. I mean, they hadn't had the video game. They still don't actually sell like the green light IndyCars in store. It's all just online and at the track. So in my opinion, that's the other big thing that really needs to get fixed. But then again, I am kind of biased because I really like the diecast. But still, NASCAR has stuff in stores, so why can't IndyCar? Especially because Greenlight has stuff in stores, just not the IndyCar stuff. So that's my gripes about the way Greenlight sells their stuff. But yeah, that's really about all I have for this video. I don't know if I'm going to be doing any race reviews this week. I might do some type of review of the Silverstone the Silverstone F1 format, because they're trying something new this week with the sprint qualifying thing. I'll see how the sprint qualifying race actually goes. I'll probably have something out about that then. But yeah, that's about all I have for today. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I'll see you all Saturday or Sunday or Monday. Bye.